fine. I appreciate all the conversation. It's perfect. That's what it's about. So the next thing to know is that there's a difference between relative and absolute URLs. So we're sort of paralleling Shay Howe's book. And that's sort of loosely what I'm looking at for structure. And I'm restructuring some things. But, you know, week 2, you should be looking at getting to know HTML and CSS, these first 3 chapters. And then somewhere in these first 3 chapters, he talks about relative and absolute URLs. And so relative URL is when you have one file. So here I have one file. And I want to get to this picture. So relative to my index file, where is that picture? Well, the index file is at this level. And pick and users are also at the same level. And so I'm going to first go into pick. So the syntax for doing that is just, right there is go into pick. And then inside that folder, I want a file. So I have a slash, and the file I want inside there is right there. So that's a relative URL. If I had, here at profile.html, and I wanted to get to this picture, well, profile is no longer at the same level as the folder pick. So I have to go up a level. So I'm going to go up a level. And then once I'm up a level, and this is the way you go up a level, once I'm up a level, I'm going to go into pick, and then I'm going to ask for that picture. And so that's relative to this file. Where's that file? And so the thing to remember is okay, if it's at the same level, I just say go into that folder. If I have to go up a level or a couple levels, I use a ... slash for each level I want to go up. So those are all relative URLs. Relative to one file, one folder, one file, where's the other file? Relative to one resource, where's the other resource? So we'll talk about files, or we'll talk about resources when we talk about web programming. So a file could be a resource, image could be a resource, and you hear about URLs. A URL is a uniform resource locator. So it's a uniform way for locating a resource. So we talk about resources on the web, and those are just files. Right? It could be an image file or an HTML file. So that's why I'm saying a file or a resource. So those are relative URLs. And then we also have absolute URLs. So an absolute URL is you know what? It doesn't matter what file I'm asking for this URL from. I could ask for that URL from any file, anywhere in the directory structure of my website. And it's always going to know how to get to that file. It's absolute. So that's absolute, right? That's always going to locate that file. I could also do an absolute URL right from the root of my site. The root of your site is like the main folder holding all of your stuff. That's the root of your site. So if this was a site right here, that would be my root. And to get to this picture from the root, I would say, all right, from the root, go into the pick folder, and then go to anatomy. And I'd put that slash there. Okay, I'm not demonstrating the slash because you have to do some other configuration things to get it to serve from root right from here inside WebStorm, and I just don't want to take the time to do it. But you should be aware that that is also an absolute link. It's absolute from the root of your site. It's another way you could do it. But mostly 95% of what we're going to do is relative URLs. So that's just like a piece of knowledge you need to have, relative versus absolute URLs. Who learned something new? Who already knew that? Cool. Good to know. The next chunk of knowledge, which is stone cold awesome. How do you like that for a phrase? I have no idea where that came from. Like, how does your brain work, right? Like, where does stuff come from? Stone cold awesome? Why would I say that? I said some other phrase the other day, which was somebody else was like doing, really? Whoa, dude, I love that phrase. Where'd that come from? I don't know. So I'm just going to call this temp. And now I want to create a web page. So let's say, I had that challenge for us right here in assignments. Create this page. Let's say I want to create this page. Right? How could I create that page with Emmett? Let me show you what Emmett does. So here I want a heading. I just type H1 and hit tab. Sweet. And hello world. Hello World. That's a different one. Brought to you by Lucifer. And then I want a paragraph, right? Cool, paragraph. And I want some text. Lorem, tab, boom, text. That's Emmett, right? And then I want unordered list, some bulleted items, and I want 8 things on my list. And here's things I like to eat: pizza, ice cream, soda, junk food, Snickers. I don't actually eat any of that, except pizza, ice cream. So there's my unordered list. And I was just hitting return to fill in each of those. And it's just next, 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 next. Well, let's say I want to write all of this at once. I want to write all of that at once. H1 and at the same level. Right? A sibling. A paragraph and at the same level. An unordered list and a descendant from unordered list, li times 8. Whoa. And then it's all stuff. Lorem. Oh, that ruined it. I'm no longer doing my tab through. But, it's taken me through the positions. If I hadn't done lorem, it would have been cool. So that'll help you write your code faster. And you can get pretty tricky with Emmett. There's an Emmett cheat sheet. But you spell it with 2 E's. And you could look at the different examples. So I did like a UL, LI. And you could use like a $sign to number things. So here's a class, and it's numbering it sequentially, and 5 of them. So the Emmett cheat sheet is one of your go-to tools as you start to build this stuff. So I'm going to get rid of temp. I think I have some crazy, that's a simple example. Sometimes I have some crazy examples. All right, so that's Emmett. And then the next thing I'll leave you with is just a little bit of CSS. So when we put CSS into our code, we already saw that, hey, you could put CSS, you could just put it internally into a web page. That's one way you could do it. I am embedding that internally. Right? So I'm using a couple of the different words which we use to talk about it. So you could have external style sheet. It's external to your web page, or it's linked. You also say an external or linked style sheet. So here's an external or linked style sheet. I'm linking to a style sheet right here. Link. It's a style sheet, and it's at this location, a relative URL. And there's my style sheet. And on my style sheet, I will have my styles. So there's my rule set. My rule set is made up of what 2 things? What is this thing? Selector. What is this thing? It starts with a D and a B, the 2 words. Database, no. Declaration block, that's a declaration block. Inside my declaration, because a block is anything between curly braces. And in my declaration block, I'm going to have declarations, and declarations will have properties and values. Okay? So there's my declaration block. So that's all I'm doing is I'm linking to that. That's a linked style sheet or an external style sheet. That's why I call this folder external. Here's an internal style sheet. It's just, or it's not a style sheet, internal styles. It's just embedded in the page. So we'll say it's internal or it's embedded. Okay, so that's internal styles. We put it in the head area. If you look at the document structure of an HTML page, right, what's in the body shows up in the body. This is down here in the body. This is down here in the body. This is the body. Anything that's not going to be shown to the user in the body, we want to put it up in the head, generally speaking. Okay? And so style is something that's additional to this document. It's not the main body of what we're showing people. So we put our styles up in the head. We put our title up in the head because title doesn't show up down here. Title shows up here on the tab. So that's another way you do styles. They're internal. You could also do inline style. So right in a tag, you could say, this tag, give it this style stuff. This is not recommended because it's kind of, once again, intermingling your formatting with your structuring of your content. It doesn't make your code, it doesn't separate the concerns, formatting and content. It doesn't separate the concerns. So your formatting and your content are interwoven, and you have to go back and sort through it to change stuff. So that's not recommended, but you can do it. So that's an inline. It's right in line with the tag. So that would format just that one paragraph. And then finally, the last way you could put CSS into your page is with an @import. So I have my main CSS, and index.html is saying go load main. And all that's in main is otros.css. And it's @import. And so it's importing another style sheet. So those are the 4 ways to link in your styles. So by the time you get through the CSS video lectures, you should be able to create this. Not far from, that's the first assignment. And then once, well, no, it's very similar to the first assignment. And then you have the code for the solution for the homework right here. So if you're stuck, you're like, I don't know how to do that. Well, go look. Try to do it on your own. But if you can't figure it out, then you could go look and, oh, that's it. Okay, cool. I understand. You learn by looking at what others did. That's all of school. You don't start breaking trail until you've like got your doctorate in something. Then you're like, okay, I understand the entire body of knowledge of mathematics. Now I'm going to forge something new and figure something new out. Right? So just look at what people have done before. Right? Just look at it if you can't figure it out. So we just looked at how to include CSS. We have 4 minutes left. I'll tell you about resets. Yeah, questions?
What's your opinion on the why import versus link relative, to CSS? Do you have an opinion about why one's better than the other?
I think the one to use is just link to an external style sheet, because that's the best separation of concerns. You've got your HTML in your HTML file. You have your formatting over in your CSS file. You could open them both up, and then you could say, okay, split vertically, and you can look at that over on the right, and you could see, okay, how's it changing here? You could run live preview and have a second monitor and have your web page up and see as you change your CSS, how's it changing the way these two are working together, right? And changing the web page. So you could see that in a second monitor with live preview. And again, that's found under debug. And then inside debug, edit configurations. Inside here, you just click that plus sign, do another JavaScript debug. And I'll show you how to do that in one of the videos. And then @import, the one performance concern you want to think about is, and I don't know, I was wondering this myself, Riri, so if you have insight into it, let me know, or if anybody else does. But does @import have a performance cost, or is that all put together on the server and then just one CSS file is sent over? I think no, it does have a performance cost as I articulate it, because what happens with @import is this asks for main. So main is sent over, and that's a whole request cycle. And then the browser reads this and says, oh, we need a different file. Can you send me that file again? And then it sends over otros. And so that's going to have a performance impact, because you're continuing to ask for things from the server, and the client's having to wait while that request goes to the server, and the server sends something back. And you might think, well, that's like nanoseconds. That's 200 nanoseconds, big deal. Yeah. And like they've done studies where they shave 200 nanoseconds off and sales go up 15% because people don't want to wait those 200 nanoseconds. Humans are incredibly persnickety and temperamental, and like how like, I don't know, what's the word to even describe that? How like impatient and like, yeah, just impatient, like such a low tolerance. 200 nanoseconds, and like, you lose 15% of sales because people are like, oh, 200 nanoseconds, I don't want to wait that time. But they've done studies where, I don't know, you could Google it and see if you find it. You've heard of that? Is that pretty much what you'd say about add import?
I think there's other reasons you use add imports. I think you can do some conditional stuff in there. So I haven't actually had need to use it.
Yeah, you can. I remember hearing some of that too.
Yeah.
So you could do like, hey, if it's for print, then bring this down. And one way we could play with that is just to see code completion. So if we did @import, and we could just see, import URL, but space and then space bar, no suggestions. So sometimes it'll give us suggestions, but it's not giving me any. But yeah, add import and media queries. You can do things. All right, so that's class. And we're up through 14 CSS, but also watch the lectures because I give more detail in the lectures. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, how did you get the image to work again?
So the image? Emmett. So with Emmett in WebStorm, you just might want to go into Preferences. And it comes automatically with WebStorm, but in plugins, you have you don't have Emmett.
Make sure you
So-
save it as an HTML file, because if it's not an HTML file, it doesn't trigger the thing to say when you type a command. Are you doing tab and it's not completing? Make sure you save it as an HTML. Especially if you're in Sublime. Are you using Sublime or what? And it's not, yeah. Check the, and you save it as an HTML file and it's not doing it?
I'll come help you with that. But here's Emmett in WebStorm Preferences. It's already built in. It's not even a plugin.
Right.
Any other questions? How many people got their money's worth today? How many people want their money back? Talk to Student Services.